Hello and welcome to another video. In this video we're going to be continuing on with the TypeScript line 75 and we're going to be doing House Robber 2. So this problem is basically the same as House Robber 1 where you're a robber and you can rob houses and you can't rob adjacent houses. But let's just remind ourselves what House Robber 1 was. So for House Robber 1 we had a bunch of houses. Let's say we have houses numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we couldn't rob houses that were next to each other. Now, House Robber 2 is literally the same exact thing, except the houses are now arranged in a circle. So instead of having them in a line, you would have something like this. And now you can't rob adjacent houses, meaning the only thing that changed is you can't rob the first and last house together. That's literally the only difference here. So you can see you can't rob house 1 then rob house 3 because they are adjacent. And that's the only change. So assuming you know how to do House Robber 1, and if you don't, it's just a previous video in my videos, so I'm not going to go over how to do that one, but I'm just going to show how to add on to that. The only change we need to make sure is we can't rob these two. Now there's a few ways to do this. We did this with memoization before, so we could add some kind of state, like did we rob one of these houses, and when we get to the other one, we'll say like let's say we robbed the first one, when we get to the last one, we'll say, did we rob the first one? And if we did, we can't rob this one. You could do that. But the thing I'm going to do that's going to make it easier is instead of that, let's say we have our 5 houses. I'm just going to split this up into calling house robber, the initial house robber function, twice. The first time, I'm going to call it with every house except for the last house. So I'll call it with house 1, house 2, house 3, house 4, which won't give you the chance to rob the first house and the last house. But we can rob the first house. And then the second time, we will call it with the last house, but not the first house. And then this will allow us to make sure that you can't rob the first and the last house together, right? They're different, but you can rob everything else. So essentially you call both of these and you just get the maximum. And that's pretty much the only thing you have to do for this problem is you take your old function, regardless of how you wrote it, you pass in your array. One array will have the first house and one array will have the last house, and you just get the maximum of those two. And that's actually pretty much it for this problem. So let's actually code it up. So here I do have the original house robber problem. I'm not going to like recode that up. It's literally line for line the same as I coded it before. And so now, so this rob1 takes an array and returns the maximum you can rob. So now what we have to do is we have to call this twice with every number other than the first number and then every number other than the last number. But there is one condition that we have to look out for, and that's if we only have one number. So if we only have one house, we should just always rob that house, and then we don't have to do this type of thing. And yeah, so that's pretty much what we're going to do for that one. So I wonder if we can actually handle that case as well. Yeah, I think we could, but we might have some issues. So let's just take care of that. Actually, let's see what happens if we don't. Let's see what happens if we don't. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to return rob1, and now we're actually going to max it, right? We're going to get 2 of these. So because the space complexity of this, the way I have it written is O of n, I'm not going to bother passing in like a starting index and a final index. But if you had some like optimized DP thing that had O of 1 space, then you're not going to want to slice here because that's going to make your function O of n. But because mine is already O of n, I'm just going to slice it just to make it easier. But you can totally just pass in a starting index and a final index into this function and just modify it a little bit to check for those. Okay, so now let's actually figure out like what we need to do. So essentially we need to call rob1 twice, right? So the first time it's going to be with every number other than the last number. So that's going to be nums dot slice. So every number other than the last number is going to be 0 up to what's the last number, right? So it's going to be nums length minus 1, I believe. So that's going to be the last number. This is not going to include the last number. And now we're going to call this function one more time. So we're going to say rob1 nums.slice. And now let's do every number other than the first number. So we'll just, I believe this actually works. We'll see what error we get and stuff. Nums.slice 1. Yeah, I believe this just works, I want to say. But we'll see. I think I might have like the wrong parentheses somewhere. Yeah, I think this needs to be not here. I think this needs to be like out here. And let's see what happens. This should not be there. Still need to inspect. Okay, there we go. See what happens, and we'll modify some stuff if we need to. Okay, so it looks like it works, but let's just see. Okay, so here for 1, we have 0. So let's kind of see what would happen if we had an array of length 1. I see. So let's actually console log just to make sure this works. This should work though. Let's console log this rob1 with just this here. So let's console log this and see what happens. This should return the correct thing, I'm assuming. But let's just take a look. Yeah, so that's fine. So it's something to do with our slicing. Yeah, so I think this, the problem here is this takes the last number, but then this takes the first number, but then it doesn't include the last number. So I think that's our issue. And I think we can actually slice, I believe, to yeah. So the problem is if the first and last number is the same, then like the slice doesn't work. So we are just gonna have to hard code this in, I believe. Because the slice includes the first number but doesn't include the last number, and if they're the same, I don't know if you can slice. There might be a way to do it, but I'm not exactly sure what that would be. So we're going to hard code that in. So we're going to say if num's length equals 1, let's just return that number. Okay. And now I believe we should be good. Okay, and as far as efficiency, once again, for these TypeScript ones, it's all over the place, so hard to say. I will say this isn't like the most efficient time and space complexity there is, because we are slicing. So, I guess time it'll be the same, but on LeetCode it'll just run a little bit slower. That's okay. So yeah, if you did want to make it a little bit more efficient on LeetCode, instead of slicing, you would just put in indices, change this to take in indices, and then use bottom-up DP instead of memoization for that. So if you want to do that, go ahead. And I also, in my actual house robber problem, I did discuss how to do that, the non-TypeScript one. So you can look that up as well. Okay, but let's go through the time and space for this one. So essentially, we are calling house robber twice, and then we are slicing twice. So it's going to be ov(n) because house robber originally is ov(n), so we're just like doing ov(n) a few times. And for the space, the original house robber is ov(n), and so slicing is also ov(n) because we're essentially creating another array. So this is going to be O of n again. It's just going to run a little bit slower on LeetCode, but this is going to be, and like I said, you can optimize the space and you can optimize the time on LeetCode, but you can't make that actual time complexity better than ov(n). It'll just run a little bit faster on LeetCode if you don't use slice and use indices instead for this part. So you can definitely do that if you wanted to. But yeah, I think that's going to be it for this one. So hopefully you did like this one. Not much to add to the first one. It's literally just like one little trick that you need to add depending on your implementation of the first one. And yeah, so that's going to be it. And if you like this video, please like it and please subscribe to the channel. And I will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.